A group called the MosaicML team is releasing MPT-7B, a 7 billion parameter model that is commercially usable and also open source. Here is the release blog. It says, introducing MPT-7 billion, a new standard for open source commercially usable LLMs. The big news about this model is that it was trained from scratch on 1 trillion tokens of text and code, and it is open source and available for both commercial and regular use, and it has the specs equivalent to the LLaMA 7 billion parameter model. They also have a little history here that MosaicML platform trained this model in 9.5 days with no human intervention. So they're selling their services here for tuning. They have also released 3 fine-tuned models in addition to the base MPT-7B. They have MPT-7B Instruct, MPT-7B Chat, and MPT-7B Story Writer 65K Plus. The last one, which uses a context length of 65K tokens. So looking at the licenses, MPT-7B base is of course a decoder style transformer, and the base is licensed on using Apache 2.0, which is a permissive license. MPT-7B Story Writer 65K Plus is a model designed to read and write stories with super long context lengths. It was built by fine-tuning MPT-7B with a context length of 65K tokens. At inference time, they use this technique called Alibi for MPT-7B story write 65K to extrapolate beyond the 65K tokens, and they have demonstrated as long as 85K tokens on a single node, A100 80 gigabyte GPUs. This is the technology used to extend the context length. It's a paper from the Allen Institute. Train short, test long. Attention with linear biases enables input length extrapolation. And Alibi is short for attention with linear biases. This method they use where they do not use positional embeddings. Instead, they bias the query key attention scores with a penalty that is proportional to their distance. Apart from the story writer, there is the instruct version of the model. Model was fine-tuned on the Databricks Dolly 15K dataset and Anthropic Helpful and Harmless datasets. This one is licensed or using Creative Commons, so you may not use it, I think, commercially. Then there's MPT-7B Chat. This is a chatbot-like model for dialogue generation and was built by fine-tuning using ShareGPT Vicuna dataset, HC3 dataset, Alpaca dataset, and Helpful and Harmless dataset, and also the Evolve Instruct dataset that is used by WizardLM. This one is probably the smartest of them all. It has the good data. So they have a few examples here of the chatbot in operation. And of course, they are selling you on the services of training your model. So you can sign up there and have them train you a nice model, or even just a fine-tuning job. Finally, you have here the standard benchmarks, and they show that MPT-7B, which is in red here, is comparable to LLaMA 7B in terms of performance on standard benchmarks. So you see the first row and the second row, and they both win equal number of times, so they are just about equal. Everybody else, I mean all the other models, perform worse. Even some larger models like GPT Neo X, which is 20 billion parameters, and Cerebrus 13 billion parameters, and Pythia 12 billion parameters. All these perform slightly worse. The MPT-7B story writer was fine-tuned using 25,000 steps, 2,500 steps on 65K token excerpts of fictional books contained in the Books 3 corpus. So It's not a lot of training, but that's a lot of tokens. And they were able to show that the model is performant by putting in most of the tokens of the Great Gatsby the novel and generating an epilogue from it. They have an example of that epilogue, but they say due to the long sequence length, the model is slow, so it's about 105 words per minute, and you will need a beefy GPU for that. 80 gigabytes of memory is probably required. And here is a comparison of the context length, the popular large language models. The LLaMA here is 2048 and most are 2048. StableLM is twice that, is 4096, and then GPT-4 is I think 8K and GPT-4 32K is there, but MPT-7B story writer is 65K, and so it's more than twice GPT-4 32K. You also have examples of the MPT-7B instruct. You can give it some information and it can generate some JSON for you. The chat also has a few examples here, so you can look at them and see that yeah, they're doing a really good job here. And they also have the data. It's very similar to Red Pajama data. So you have, in fact, they have the Red Pajama data itself just like that inserted here, and they have added a little more from the stack. And I don't know if MC4 is different from the regular C4. They have added that as well. And for the tokenizer, they are using Eleuthia AI's GPT Neo X 20 billion parameter tokenizer. Then after that, they have, I think it's a commercial of their services, because they're telling us the details of what it took and how much hardware and how much money it took to train all these models in the detail. And then there's the stability. They were able to do the training without human intervention from start to end, so they have the ML ops jobs to do it. Here's the graph that shows that you could have multiple hardware failures during the training, and the training did not stop, it just went on, and that's a good thing to see. About the software, MPT is designed from the Hugging Face pre-trained model base class, so there's no real special care that you have to take to use their models. And they say they use all the new tricks that everybody uses, like flash attention to make it faster and cheaper to do inference, and other tricks that they have. Okay, and finally there's the appendix. Okay, there's some detail here. MC4 is multilingual version of C4, which is new because they have sources through August 2022. That's newer than the old ones, which ended in 2021. The MPT people have also graciously put up some Hugging Face spaces to try out the demo. So you have this 7 billion parameter MPT-7B instruct, and you also have MosaicML MPT-7B chat to play with. You can also try to use the Google Colab, but you cannot be able to use it for free. You have to get a beefy GPU to be able to run this. So Hugging Face is your best bet. So that was a brief introduction of the the MosaicML's MPT-7B commercially usable open source LLMs. Please go to their homepage and take a look, and also go to Hugging Face where you can try them out. Thank you.